Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Home Care You Say Updates podcast. It feels like it's been so long since I've been here with you guys, but I'm excited now that we're in 2026 and starting a new advocacy year. How exciting! So let's get started with our updates. Today, we're starting with our federal update. Not much to report on with the federal government. We are still keeping an eye on CMS and still reviewing the final home health rule that came out a few months ago. Nothing new has come out as far as this month in January, but you never know, and it's always important to keep an eye on these things as we enter a new advocacy year and want to look a little closely on what kind of policies might come out. And CMS is a good guiding light for that to see, what are their priorities, what are they looking at for 2026, and we can see kind of where the federal government might follow suit. So I look forward to keeping you more updated on that. And I'm going to combine this into the federal update today, but it's something that's kind of more of a national issue that I've heard a lot on the news. So I want to talk a little bit about Medicaid fraud. So if you're like me and have been watching the news lately, and it could be local, it could be political news, or just on social media, I've seen a lot of conversations on Medicaid fraud and that being a big focus in 2026. And while this may sound really scary as someone who maybe you live in North Carolina and just faced the proposed Medicaid cuts, or you're in another state and you're worried about that, I don't believe that's something that we need to be concerned about at this moment. I think, the news is covering this because federal and state leaders are really looking close at the Medicaid program and want to reduce waste and ensure funds are used properly. And this is more of a focus on what we like to call bad actors. So as we know, all over the world, there are bad actors. It's just a common thing. But, this is not something that they want to affect families, caregivers, or legitimate providers, because the majority of providers are legitimate, but there are a few that we call bad actors that might not be doing this for the right reason. But we don't want people like you who are doing it for the right reason to be affected by this. So, we stay really paying close attention of what policies they may put in place in states or federally that, is going to try to limit this fraud. And it's really just more oversight. They want to have more oversight over providers. And, what are you doing? Where's the dollar going? And also making sure that our taxpayer dollars are being used properly. So while, all of this sounds like a really good thing, you do want to keep a close eye on it because these policies can come out and affect in a bad way if they're not done properly. And that's why advocacy is so important and teaching lawmakers about the good side of home care and hospice and the families that are being supported and how you can continue supporting them without allowing bad actors to continue these practices. So I look forward to keeping you more updated on that. I just thought it was a cool little thing to add and just teach you guys a little bit more on things that you may hear about in the news. All right, moving on to our state updates. I'm going to start today with New Jersey. So lawmakers are entering important budget conversations and discussions that are focused on ensuring Medicaid funding keeps pace with rising costs, workforce challenges, and growing demand for care at home as the population ages. Now, this is something that's going on everywhere, and there's not much more intricate policy because we just entered 2026, so lawmakers are still discussing, bill drafting, things of that nature. But I will say in New Jersey, we had a really great home visit where we had 3 lawmakers come out all together to the same home, which is something that sounds, that sounds like something that would happen normally. But it's kind of rare to get 3 lawmakers there at the same time, just because they have such busy schedules. But it really shows that lawmakers want to know what's going on in the home. They want to know how home care is supporting their communities firsthand. So that's always just a great way to show off, the power of home care and keeping clients in home and receiving those services. So good job, New Jersey advocates. Pennsylvania's 2027 budget season is already underway. I'm shocked that I'm saying that because I feel like just 2 days ago, I told you guys that they released their budget finally after taking a long time. But hopefully as these budget discussions have just begun for 2027, the hopes are lawmakers will be able to come to the table, have conversations, get this budget solidified, and get it out in a timely manner so their constituents aren't waiting on it for over 100 days. But state leaders are reviewing funding priorities that affect access to in-home care, caregiver availability, and long-term services. And advocates have been really pushing hard in the last 2 months. I'm very proud of my Pennsylvania advocates that are out there. You have completed, I think yesterday I heard, over 40 visits already. And that's a lot. I mean, that doesn't sound like a lot. 40 is not a big number, but it is when it comes to legislative meetings. So very happy that advocates are out there, boots on the ground, getting things started as these discussions prevail. And hopefully we will have a quicker budget. All right. Moving on to Delaware. Delaware's policy decisions continue around Medicaid reimbursement and workforce stability. Now, I feel like I could say that same sentence for every single state. I think 2026 is the year of workforce stability, and that may just be my opinion, but I just hear it constantly, and everyone wants to feel more stable, especially in the healthcare community. I think this, while we work really hard to make sure that our nurses and aides feel secure, with things that have happened in the past couple months, we see changes can happen. Policies can come out that really affect our workforce. So we want to see lawmakers put it as a priority to make their constituents who work in healthcare feel more stable in their work. So I look forward to seeing that in Delaware and hopefully across the nation. North Carolina. So as I talked about last podcast, the governor did put out that he was going to reverse the Medicaid funding cuts that were released back October 1. And that is really exciting. And that is still something that I think advocates in North Carolina, you should be celebrating. That was a win for advocacy because providers were really struggling. It was a really scary time and we prevailed. We showed up and we showed what needed to happen. Now, this is not a long-term solution. He did kind of give us some leeway till the spring, but lawmakers are coming back in April for their short session. And that's when, hopefully, crossing our fingers, we will get a full state budget. But we need in that budget for Medicaid to be fully funded if we're not going to have to deal with a situation like this again. And providers can't. We can't stay in this gray area of not knowing what's coming next. Providers, all of you out there that are taking care of your patients shouldn't have to worry each day if something else is going to come out that is going to put you in this position of not knowing what's next for Medicaid in North Carolina. So I look forward to these conversations. Conversations with lawmakers have already started in 2026. We're preparing for April's beginning of the session. We're gauging kind of how these conversations are going, what this is going to look like, what lawmakers' priorities are, making sure this is at the forefront of their minds as this was a big issue in the fall and we want it to carry over with just the same amount of strength into April. So if you're a North Carolina advocate, keep an eye on your emails. If you have time to speak to your legislator, send an email to your legislator, share your story. This is a great time to do that. So I look forward to all the advocacy that's to come in North Carolina. South Carolina's legislative session is now underway as of this week. This is such an exciting time when a new session begins. As someone like myself who used to work like inside the legislature, I just remember this week being really crazy, but just so exciting because everyone comes in ready to work, ready to get started on policies for the year. So that's what's happening in South Carolina this week. And also some exciting news coming out of South Carolina. Governor Henry McMaster's recently released his proposed budget, which recommended fully funding the South Carolina Department of Health and Human Services budget request. This is really exciting news. Seeing that support from both sides, then leading into session and lawmakers are able to see that as well. They will start those conversations within committees about their future budget and what's that going to look like? How do we incorporate these asks? And just having the governor come out and say that is really helpful. So I'm really excited for South Carolina. I'm excited to see what happens, and advocates are really already getting out there. Just like Pennsylvania, boots on the ground are starting early. Our Advocacy Day is on February 4th, and that is a really exciting time where we can start out the session strong by really talking to lawmakers about how home care and hospice is supporting their communities. Florida also started their legislative session this week, another state that is in that exciting, new period of welcome to 2026. Let's get started strong. And with that, advocates are doing the same, going to the legislature early this year for their Advocacy Day in Tallahassee, putting home care and hospice in the forefront of their minds. This is what is helping your community. This is what is helping your constituents and has been for years. So making sure lawmakers understand that. And just another state that's really focused on workforce challenges and regulatory decisions that are impacting home care and hospice. So all of these are going to be a key issue leading into the rest of the year, and I look forward to giving you more updates on that. All right, so going back to, a state that we don't really cover for every podcast, but I wanted to cover today because they have some interesting things going on. And that state is the state of California today. So in California, home care and hospice are part of a broader budget decision as the state works to manage rising healthcare costs. Workforce shortages and Medicaid funding levels remain central concerns as more people choose care at home over institutional settings. So what's going on in California is, just like the rest of us, all of us out here in America, we're all worried about inflation. We're all worried about rising costs for care. That is just something that's a blanket thing. But California is really focusing in on it for their session and looking into, how are we going to support our constituents while also dealing with all of these other things that we have to focus on and all of these other things that are playing a part in why receiving care and getting the care that individuals need has become so difficult. And that's why a lot of people are choosing home care. It's a cheaper option for the state and for you. So, California is just trying to look into this, and I think it's one of their top priorities this session. So it'll be interesting to see what policies come out. But also, just a note that I have here, California often signals trends that other states may face next or may choose to focus on. So, of course, California, you have Hollywood that creates all these trends. They do the same in their legislature, which I find so interesting. So, whatever we see come out of California this year, I would really predict that many states will follow suit or will have similar things take place. So just putting that out there, I'll let you know. I'll keep track of it, and we will talk about it more as more information comes out. All right, I need everyone to get out your calendars. Get out your calendars and mark these dates down. So starting with South Carolina, we have Advocacy Day. I've talked about it a lot. February 4th in Columbia, South Carolina. If you are a South Carolina advocate or just someone who's interested in getting involved, this is your opportunity. So please put that on your calendar and keep an eye out on your emails for registration information or check out our website. Florida, you're the same way, starting out early, February 11th in Tallahassee, Florida. Look forward to seeing you guys there. And if you haven't signed up, please do. I always talk about how fun it is. Just think about coming out and starting your year out with boots on the ground advocacy. Pennsylvania is going to take place on March 24th in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. One of those advocacy days that we always see a big turnout, and that is just so inspiring. So if you're in Pennsylvania and have never attended Advocacy Day, or maybe you have and you're wondering, I don't know if I'm going to fit it in, I really encourage you to get out there this year. 2026 is going to be a big year for us. North Carolina, your Advocacy Day is going to be on May 13th in Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, I know that's far out, but there's no better time than the present to mark it on your calendars and create your schedule to be there on that day. Always a big turnout in Raleigh, always really exciting. The legislators get really excited about it, and I look forward to seeing you guys there. And the last one we have is Delaware, which is the day after North Carolina, is on May 14th in Dover. So I really look forward to seeing you guys. I hope all of these are on your calendar, and I look forward to talking about how these events go, as I will be there, and hopefully record a little bit of some podcast segments so you can kind of hear about live advocacy and what's going on these days at the state legislatures. All right, last segment is our question segment. Now, we haven't had many questions, which, I take that as maybe I'm doing a good job in getting you guys the information you need so you don't have any questions. But if you do, please put them in the comments. We really want to answer your questions, whatever they may be, and you can get a big prize. So I don't know what the prize is yet. I'm really excited to find out. But you guys, if you have questions, can win something cool. So, I want to think about something that you may have a question about that you don't even realize you have a question about yet. So, something I can cover here. And I really want to talk about advocacy from your desk. So, just like me, you guys are out there working. You have people to care for. You may be out in your communities doing community service. Whatever you're doing, you have a goal. You have something that you're working towards. And maybe advocacy is hard to fit into that. Day to day, you have so much going on. Trying to get to your state legislature, which in many states may be hours away, is a really big task and a lot to ask. So, how can you still be a productive advocate while still doing all the things you need to do throughout your day? And that's where I think social media has really come into play. I tell people all the time, it feels like, 4 years ago, advocacy on social media was almost non-existent. I mean, maybe it's just me, but in the past few years, it's just boomed over time, and more individuals are out there advocating, tagging their legislators, posting videos of their story and how policies have affected them. It's just so powerful to see such a big movement that doesn't make you have to leave your house. I mean, you can stay right at your desk and do any of this. And something I want to promote is, maybe you don't have time to make a video. Maybe you've never really used social media. I know at a time I felt that way, and you felt like you still didn't have any way to advocate. I really encourage you guys to go check out the Hearts for Home Care website. There are opportunities there and through other groups that you can just click a button and send an email to your legislator, or, learn how to advocate, how to get involved. There's so many options, and also so many calendar events, like all the dates that I just told you guys about. Learning about those early may help you be able to get to those type of events. So I encourage you to check that out. And if you have questions about advocating, or you just want to write your story out and share it with us, then email us at advocacy@heartsforhomecare.com. That's another great opportunity for you if you're not one of those people that want to get on camera and make a video or go to Advocacy Day. Just sharing your story with some short words through an email are also very helpful. So I look forward to hearing more of your questions and hopefully getting some of your stories so you can advocate from your desk every day. And that's a wrap on our first update of 2026. It's hard to believe we're already in this year, but I just feel that this year is the year of advocacy, and it is going to be so powerful. And I look forward to keeping you all updated on how that advocacy goes and what effects it has on all of our states and our nation. So I'll see you next time.